I don't care if she's sick, my sister snapped, her voice echoing through the living room. Dad said we could. We're taking whatever we want. I lay curled up on the couch, burning with a 104-degree fever. My whole body shook beneath the blanket. My skin was soaked with sweat, my lips were dry and cracked, and even breathing felt like work. Take it, I whispered, barely able to speak. Mom didn't even glance at me. She walked straight into my bathroom and began stuffing my expensive skincare, unopened perfume, and every little luxury I'd saved up to buy into a shopping bag. My sister yanked open my dresser drawers as if they belonged to her, tossing my favorite dresses into her tote without a second thought. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just stared at the ceiling, listening to my slow heartbeat and wondering if this was what being invisible felt like. They hadn't come to help me. They had come to strip my life away. A few minutes later, the front door opened again. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Then everything went silent. Scarlett. Dad stepped into my bedroom and froze. The room looked like it had been robbed. Clothes covered the floor. Empty drawers hung open. Shopping bags overflowed with my belongings. And in the middle of it all, I lay pale, weak, and barely conscious. He slowly turned toward the living room. What the hell is going on here? Mom's face lost its color. I was too weak to move, but for the first time in years, Dad actually saw me. I said. He repeated louder this time, "What the hell is this?" My sister smirked at first. Then she saw the look on his face. Mom quickly spoke up. She told us we could take it. Didn't you, Scarlett? Dad looked at me. I gave the smallest nod. I did, I whispered. His eyebrows pulled together. But why? Why would you let them take everything? Can you even stand? I tried to get up. My legs gave out instantly. My body collapsed like a flower with a broken stem. Dad lunged forward and caught me before I hit the hardwood floor. The moment his hand touched my forehead, his expression changed. Jesus Christ. His voice cracked. She's burning up. He looked at Mom as though she were a complete stranger. You walked right past her. You saw her like this, and you still went through her things. Mom said nothing. I'm calling an ambulance, Dad said, reaching for his phone. Oh, stop overreacting, Mom snapped. She's always dramatic. Dad's glare stopped her cold. Get out. She blinked. What? I said get out of this apartment before I drag you out myself. Neither of them believed he was serious until he started dialing emergency services. Still muttering under their breath, they grabbed their bags and stormed out. Dad stayed. He pressed a cold towel against my forehead, held my hand, and never once looked toward the door. For the first time since I was 16. He didn't look like Mom's husband. He looked like my father. I spent the next 3 days in bed. My fever finally broke sometime between dawn and sunset. Every time I opened my eyes, Dad was there. He slept upright in the chair beside my bed like a guard refusing to leave his post. Whenever he stepped away, he'd return with fresh soup, clean towels, and my medicine already sorted into a small dish. Felt strange. Not because he was taking care of me, but because for years he hadn't. He had always sided with Mom. He laughed whenever she called me too sensitive. He ignored my sister borrowing and ruining everything I owned. He paid for their behavior. And every time I cried, he looked the other way. But something had changed. On the 4th morning, I woke to the sound of his voice. It was low, unsteady. He was on the phone. I saw it with my own eyes, he said. They walked past her like she was garbage. Like she didn't even exist. Silence. I don't care how long we've been married. Another pause. You don't treat your own child that way. His voice broke. Not while I'm still alive. I quietly closed my eyes. A single tear slipped into my pillow. Not because I was hurting. Because I couldn't remember the last time someone had stood up for me. Maybe, just maybe, I finally wasn't alone. But that tiny spark of hope didn't last long. Later that afternoon, the front door burst open without a knock. Mom had returned. And she wasn't alone. My sister walked in first, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. She held her phone high, recording everything with a smug smile. Mom followed behind with her arms folded tightly across her chest. Get that camera out of my house, Dad said sharply, standing to face them. Oh, we're recording, my sister said with a laugh. Just in case you forget how you've suddenly turned against your real family. Dad let out a slow, bitter laugh. It was a sound I'd never heard from him before. Your real family, he said. He looked directly at both of them. You tried to rob my daughter while she was half dead. The room fell completely silent. Mom tossed a thick folder onto the coffee table. Let's stop pretending she's innocent, she said with a cold smile. She's been manipulating you with this fake illness long enough. I slowly pushed myself upright, every muscle aching. What's that? She folded her arms. An eviction notice. My stomach tightened. This apartment is still in your father's name, she continued. You don't pay rent. Legally, you're nothing more than a guest. Dad grabbed the papers. The color drained from his face. You forged my signature? No, Mom replied sweetly. I filed everything before your little change of heart. Before you decided to take her side. She had planned this. Every bit of it. My sister smiled. Come on, Scarlett. Pack a bag. You can stay in a hotel. I stood on shaky legs. No. The room fell silent. They still saw me as the frightened 16-year-old they could push around. They forgot that girl was gone. Dad looked at me with concern. You don't have to fight them. I slowly shook my head. I'm not fighting. I lifted the eviction notice. I'm finishing this. I read every page, then reached beneath my bed and pulled out a black folder. I placed it beside Mom's paperwork. Actually, I said calmly, this apartment isn't in your name anymore, Dad. Mom blinked. What? I opened the folder. Remember 6 months ago when I asked you to sign those refinancing papers after my promotion? Dad nodded slowly. You thought you were only helping me qualify for the loan. I slid a notarized document across the table. You also transferred full ownership. His eyes widened. My sister laughed nervously. That's impossible. It isn't. I pointed to the deed. I hadn't recorded it yet. A small smile crossed my face. I will tomorrow morning. Mom's expression twisted with rage. You ungrateful little. Careful, Dad interrupted, his voice colder than I'd ever heard. She didn't betray this family. He looked directly at his wife. You did. I walked to the front door and opened it. Then I looked at both of them. You have 60 seconds. My voice was calm. After that, I call building security. Mom glared. My sister muttered under her breath. But neither of them argued. For the first time in years. They walked away. Not because they wanted to. Because they no longer had the power. That night my apartment was silent. No slammed doors. No whispered insults. No missing clothes. No broken bottles scattered across the bathroom. Just peace. The next morning, Dad came with me to the county office. Together we recorded the deed. The apartment officially became mine. Legally. Permanently. No one could take it away again. As we walked outside, Dad cleared his throat. I didn't know, he said quietly. About what they were doing. He hesitated. About what I had become. I studied his face. You didn't want to know. He didn't argue. Instead he nodded. I want to do better. His voice barely rose above a whisper. If you'll let me. I didn't forgive him. But I didn't turn him away either. Instead I invited him over for dinner. Just him. That evening I made simple food. Soup. Toast. Ginger tea. The kind of meal people make when they're learning how to breathe again. He washed the dishes without being asked. For the first time in years. He smiled. Just once. As he reached the door to leave, my phone buzzed. One message. From Mom. You think you've won? You have no idea what you've started. Asterisk asterisk. I stared at the screen. Then quietly whispered. Neither do you. The following week, strange things began happening. My work laptop froze in the middle of an important presentation. My bank card was declined twice despite having plenty of money. One of my biggest clients suddenly canceled our contract without explanation. Then came the worst surprise. An anonymous complaint arrived at my workplace. It mixed tiny pieces of truth with carefully crafted lies. Fake emails. Altered timelines. False accusations. It was calculated. Precise. Exactly the kind of trap my mother loved to build. She never attacked openly. She smiled while she laid the snare and waited for someone else to fall into it. This time I was ready. I reported everything to human resources and included every threatening text she had ever sent me. Then I hired a cybersecurity specialist. Within days, they traced the fake emails back to my family's old desktop computer. The investigator looked up. Do you want to press criminal charges? I thought for a long moment, then shook my head. No. He looked surprised. I smiled. Let her think she's winning. Because people like my mother always need an audience. And sooner or later, every performance reaches its final act. I never attacked her. I simply stepped aside. She and my sister couldn't stop talking. They spread rumors online. They exaggerated stories at family gatherings. They posted edited screenshots that were so poorly altered even my HR manager laughed when she saw them. Eventually, their own words reached the people whose opinions actually mattered. Members of Mom's charity board. Real estate partners. Business associates. Even a journalist I knew casually asked a simple question during a podcast interview. So, what's the story behind the impersonation allegations connected to your name? Everything unraveled after that. Not with shouting. Not with revenge. With paperwork. Corporate investigations. Frozen bank accounts. IRS audits. A defamation lawsuit filed, not by me, but by my employer after my family's false claims damaged the company's reputation. I never threatened them. I never celebrated. I simply watched as every bridge they had built with lies collapsed beneath them. When I finally blocked every one of their numbers, it wasn't revenge. It was freedom. Because silence isn't always surrender. Sometimes, silence is the greatest kind of power.